The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for the Center for Autism and it is also the home for Autism Live. We're really thrilled to be here with you on this Monday morning. We got a big show, lots to do. I want to start out by reminding you that this show is meant to be interactive and Traven is going to show you some of the different ways that you can connect with us. And while he does that, I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, there's so many things to do. If you click on the red button at the top that says live, it will start the live show. If you want to chat with us, you go to the bottom, click on the chat button. It will open up into a screen. You can type and hit enter and it will show up here on my screen, and that way you and I can have a conversation. And you can have a conversation with our experts that we have on the show, which is a super cool thing to do. That's free and it's anonymous. We want to remind you that any way that if you see that there's a way to get us and that we're not on it, if there's some sort of server or a podcast that you use that we're not on, please let us know, because we try to be wherever we can be where you guys can watch us for free. That's sort of our mission, because we want to help you to get to the hope and inspiration and information that gets you there, right? I am an autism mom and a proud autism mom, not an expert in the field of autism. Got to be honest with you about that. We have many experts on the show. Me, I'm not one of them, but I'm here. I'm in your corner. I want to help you to get to the things that are going to help you. That's what I'm all about. So please write in and tell us your thoughts, your feelings, your questions, your concerns. I like to say that we serve the autism community. And when I'm talking about the autism community, I'm talking about a big, beautiful group of people that, of course, starts with individuals who are on the autism spectrum. It includes their parents and their loved ones and their significant others. It includes the people who deliver services to people on the autism spectrum, people like ABA practitioners, OTs, speech and language pathologists, and teachers, and all of those people. We are a big, beautiful community, and we're here to help you to get to the progress that you deserve and the respect that you deserve. And along the way, we're going to give you information and, I hope, inspiration. So that's what we're about. I say we hold hands and si se puede, right? We can do this. So I want to say to you that at the start of the show on Monday now, because we're doing this new format, so we're back on Mondays, we like to start with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is where we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to figure out, what does this term mean and what does it have to do with me, and is this going to save me time and money? So we've got a little technical glitch today, so I don't have it up on the screen for you, but it's super important that you know what this term means. Today's term is self-funded plan or self-funded insurance. You might hear us talking about that on the show. You might hear your employer talking about that. Chances are, though, that it isn't something that you really hear about, and it waits until it bites you in the tuchus before you know what this is talking about. We share a lot of information on this show about ABA and how you can get ABA services. So the actual definition of a self-funded plan is an insurance plan that is funded by the employer. And if I were going to break that down a little bit further to our working definition, I would say to you, it looks like insurance, but it's not. Okay, so there's this thing called insurance, and it's governed by a bunch of laws, right? And there are state laws and there are federal laws about insurance. And back when Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act went into being, the person who was the director of Health and Human Services, whose name I don't remember because she's to me, they defined what the 10 essential health benefits were for the Affordable Care Act, and one of them was behavioral health, which is what autism comes under the heading of, right? And she was given the mission of figuring out, how does this work out? Like, do we have this federal thing that says all plans have to do with this, or do we turn it over to the states? And because she's to me, she turned it over to the individual states, and she said, I'm going to let them decide. Okay, so in effect, I'm sure that did a lot of different things, and I'm sure she had a reason. I don't like her reason, whatever it is, but whatever. She didn't stay in the position much longer. She's the one that when the website went live, it crashed immediately. Thank you, goodbye. If you can't do it, let somebody else step aside, right? In any case, I know I'm going to meet her at a reception sometime, and it's going to be really ugly, right? Because I've had nothing to say nice about her. I can't even remember her name because it's like Kathleen or something. I don't know. I wiped it from my memory banks because it makes me so angry. You know what I'm saying? Because she had an opportunity to make sure that all kids in the United States had the right to get ABA, and she kerfuffled it, right? Whatever. Okay, so blood pressure. Anyway. So then it was up to the states, and one by one the states said, yes, we think this is important. Yes, we have a mandate. Yes, we're saying that ABA is so important that if you're an insurance provider and you come into our state, you have to offer a plan that offers ABA. Have to. Sorry, that's the mandate, right? And now, ladies and gentlemen, 49 of our 50 states have that mandate. If you come into our state with an insurance plan, it's got to provide behavioral health support, which includes ABA. Tennessee, you're out in the cold. You don't have a mandate yet. They're the only state in the union that has not said, we're making this a priority. Hopefully Tennessee, I know it's still being worked on. I hope it's going to happen. I want to throw a party when we get to the all 50, right? So everybody goes, woohoo, we all got insurance. There's a mandate. Fabulous. I live in the state of California. Where's my insurance plan? The problem is that if you are a company that is a large company, you work for a large, more than, I think, 100 employees, you have the right to either do insurance, or you can decide to do a self-funded plan. And what a self-funded plan is, it looks like insurance, it walks like insurance, it quacks like insurance, but it's not. It's not insurance because when you do insurance, you pay your premium, and the insurance company is going to cover whatever happens. So if something catastrophic happens, the insurance company is going to lose money on the deal. Just how it goes. And insurance says, well, we have so many people in this pool that it'll even out. One person isn't going to use as much of their health care, so we can afford, if we take everybody's premiums, we can afford to pay for this person who's having a catastrophic illness. Now, for a company, if you're a big company and you have a lot of employees, and in some cases we're talking thousands of employees, paying for each person for a premium, it often just means you're giving your profit to the insurance company. So we have federal laws, they're called the ERISA laws, if you want to learn more jargon, that has to do with self-funded plans and retirement plans and things of these nature. And it says that an individual company, if they have a certain number of employees, can decide to take on the risk themselves. So, you pay an insurance company to manage what you're doing. So that's why it looks like insurance. So, your employer might be, I don't know, let's say Acme, right? And they pay Blue Cross Blue Shield to manage their self-funded plan. So you come in, you start to work for Acme, and they give you your Blue Cross Blue Shield plan, and it looks just like insurance to you. And it really doesn't matter to you that your company is paying for anything that happens at Blue Cross Blue Shield, anything. So they're not paying a premium, they're paying for them to manage it, and they're paying for anything that happens to you. They're hoping that it evens out and that some of you will be healthy and not need as much, and that if there is somebody who has a catastrophic illness, that the total of the company will absorb it. Here's the rub, that those state plans, because they're state funded, and you have that mandatory, the mandate that says you have to have insurance, it doesn't cover ERISA, which is the self-funded plans. Those are federal laws. So when your company, let's say your company is based in California, Acme, and California has a mandate. And so you go, well, then if there's insurance, it's got to have ABA. It's a self-funded plan, which means it doesn't. Self-funded plans go under the ERISA law, so you may still be out in the cold with your ABA plan. Now, the good news is that in a state with a mandate, hopefully there is an Affordable Care Act plan that you could refuse your employer and go towards that plan. Sometimes you can do that. And in a lot of the states that adopted the mandate, they have a Medicare plan that has the ABA benefit in it. So you have your plan from Acme and you get your secondary plan, and what this won't cover, your Medicare picks up. But you got to know what you have, because it makes a difference in how much you pay. So that's what a self-funded plan is. It looks like insurance, not insurance. It doesn't have to be held to insurance laws. It gets held to the federal law, the ERISA law. But if that Health and Human Services person had done her job, we wouldn't care. We wouldn't even, it'd be like, who cares whether it's self-funded or not? So, right? That's what I have to say about her. And I say that about so few people. In any case, self-funded plan, that's what you needed to know. Ask your employer, is our plan insurance or is it self-funded? Your benefits representative should know. And then you take it from there, but you don't let that stop you from getting ABA. There's always a way. There's always a way. All right? So that's our jargon for the day. Moving on, we always have a question of the day for you. And I have it here somewhere. There it is. Oh, okay. Very simple. Is your insurance paying for ABA? And I'd love to know if there are still folks out there who are watching the show that you have not yet accessed funding for ABA, because I'm taking a little private data for myself to figure out how we make sure that everybody gets that, because it's 2019. It's time to level the playing field, right? And we're going to talk about something really important that's going to level the playing field in just a minute. So moving on, so write in and tell us about that. And then moving on, we always have a topic of the week. And this week, can you guess what our topic is? It's a very important one. It's autism and insurance. I don't know about you, but I had a plan for my life, and I was going here, and I had my master's degree, and I thought that I knew what I knew, and I wasn't gonna have to go back to school, right? And then along came autism, and I was like, oh, look at that, there's a lot more to learn. And look at all the jargon terms, they're hard to learn, and look at all the things I don't know. And I needed to learn all these psychology terms, and I needed to do ABA terms and autism terms and right? And then I was like getting that under control. I'm still getting that under control and learning all those things. And then along came insurance for autism, which is a great thing, but it's a whole bunch of new things to learn. And just when you learn them, they change them. And it can be very, very frustrating. But you know what? When there's a will, there's a way. And I love the fact that smarter people are working on this all the time. Now, I was just talking about the mandates, and each state's mandate has been different. Another thing that Health and Home Services, the hot woman, anyway, that she didn't take care of. So it's different. If you live in Rhode Island, your mandate says something different than what it says in California. So now we all have to know that. Thanks. We appreciate that. But here's a great thing. Here's something that really is helping a lot of people right now, is that federal law always is over state law. So if the state law says, you know, your child can get ABA services, but only this many hours a week and only up until this age, right? And people go, oh no, my child is approaching that age and my insurance just gave me a denial of claims because they said my child reached the age of 10 and the mandate says 10 and the policy says 10, you're done, right? No, there's a federal, it's called the Mental Health Parity Act, and it supersedes this, which means it makes it go, sorry, I'm federal, you're state, bye-bye, I win, right? Always. And the Federal Mental Health Parity Act says a bunch of things that are pretty fantastic. Now, yesterday, in the, I'm trying to think, this was in the House Labor, HHS, and Education Appropriations Committee. Yesterday, they were, not yesterday, a couple of days ago, yesterday was Sunday, a couple of days ago, last week, they were debating this language and we're waiting to hear if this got in. But this is what their current, and this has gone through committee, so we're hopeful that it goes through the way it is. Mental health parity, the Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act, which stands for MHPAEA, put that on a button, was enacted more than 10 years ago to prevent group health plans and health insurance providers that provide mental health or substance use disorder benefits from imposing less favorable benefit limitations on qualifying mental health benefits than on a medical or surgical benefits. So, for instance, if you have a surgical benefit for something and they're offering any mental health or behavioral health, they can't have one set of rules over here and another. So they can't say, oh, well, your child can only have this surgery up to the age of 10, right? So they can't say that over here. Pooh! Explosion, right? People are winning this on appeal. So this goes on to say the committee is aware of instances where insurers, covered health care plans, and managed care organizations, including MCOs that manage state Medicaid programs, may be imposing conditions for access to treatment for mental health services, including services for Down syndrome and autism spectrum disorder, that are not imposed on medical or surgical benefits. So they're saying, oh, if you don't do this, you can't have services. And they're saying, no, sorry, that doesn't work. These limitations may include parent or caregiver participation requirements, pre-authorization processes, oh, have we seen that for the last year, location of services exclusions, and fail first policies. The committee directs CMs to ensure compliance, so they're basically saying that the House is saying to, make them comply with this. And train your people, as it goes on to say. So know that age limits and amount of time limits, if they don't have that in surgical, can't have it in the mental health department, which is what a behavioral health is included in. They can't force your participation. They can't say to you, you have to live here to do this. Look at all these things. Isn't that fabulous? So anyway, autism insurance, we're going to continue talking about this. I'm going to get an expert in here to talk about this, hopefully this week. All right, moving on. We've got a great show for you today, and I've already kept her too long, and she's going to be frustrated with me. Ms. Bonnie Yates is going to be joining us next. And then a little bit later on in the show, we have Harish Bikmal. I hope I'm saying his name right. He's going to talk with us about Zenaviv and what he's trying to do to help individuals who are on the autism spectrum lead their best and biggest life. So stick with us. We're going to take a break and come back with Ms. Bonnie Yates, and she's going to talk about your legal rights and LRE. Stick with us.
Hey, I'm Candace Cameron Bray.
Tom Bergeron.
You're watching Autism Live. And you're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
You're watching Autism Live.
Welcome back to Autism Live, and we're so excited that we're welcoming Bonnie Yates to the show again. She's a regular here. We absolutely adore her. She's a special education attorney extraordinaire, and she's an amazing woman, artist, and a fabulous mother, and so we're thrilled that she's here with us. And Bonnie comes... What's that?
Don't get me in trouble.
And Bonnie is, she comes to us from the law offices of Hirji and Chow, which we also love in Culver City. Bonnie, tell us a little bit about Hirji and Chow and your disclaimer, please.
Okay. Hirji and Chow is a 6-attorney law firm in Culver City. We do special education, regional center, and disability discrimination. The disclaimer is that we want you to know about your rights, and we try to answer your questions to the best of our ability in a general way. But any specific problem that you have would benefit from a consultation from an attorney. If you're in Southern California, you can reach out to Hirji and Chow for complimentary consultation. If you are in Northern California or the other 49 states, I'd recommend you go to COPA.net and look at the lawyers directory in there. A lot of those people are good people who have, been in the trenches because they've had their own personal experience with disability, and you can call those people and get help. But make sure if you've got a specific problem, you get somebody to pay some pretty focused, specific attention to it in a timely fashion.
Great disclaimer. So, Bonnie, we've got a couple of short questions for you this week because we wanted to leave some time because you started out talking about LRE last week, and LRE is very important to all of us, and it is IEP time. And honestly, that's one of the biggest things that gets discussed is, where is the best placement for somebody? What's the least restrictive environment? But, okay. So partially, both of these questions have a little bit to do with that. So the first question is, I know Bonnie said that there's a place where we can make notes on the IEP if we disagree. Where is that? I don't see it. So where do we find that, Bonnie?
That's a really good question. And the answer to that is you're going to create it. Because where it says there's 2 places that parents potentially could sign the IEP. There's a consent portion and there's a participation portion. Participation portion has no legal significance beyond the fact that you showed up there and you participated, and you had an opportunity to give input. It doesn't mean you agree with what the IEP team said, and it doesn't even mean that you agree that the IEP team has documented what they said correctly. So then there's the consent portion of the IEP, which sometimes says I consent, sometimes it says I don't consent, sometimes I consent but accept. So, except for the following concerns. So what I suggest that parents do is they think about the bases that they're gonna agree with or object to when they sign the IEP and create a whole separate document. So all you need to do is where it says I consent, you go in there with your blue or black pen, and you make 3 asterisks, and then you write, please see attached letter dated blah, 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 re-IEP of blah, blah, blah date. I've been known to just say, please see attached letter. And then you send them the attached letter, and the attached letter is an IEP response, and it should contain a response to the different parts of the IEP. So one of the parts of the IEP is going to be eligibility.
You just became a mystery guest.
Yeah, what happened? Why am I all dark all of a sudden? That's strange.
Yeah, I think just the camera tilted, and all of a sudden you were that mystery guest. I wanted
strange. Yeah.
Okay, now we can see you again.
Okay. Anyway, so the first bit of business as far as the consent is, do you agree to the eligibility? If you do, you just say I agree to eligibility. If you don't, you say what. Then you talk about whether or not you agree with the goals. And if you do, fine. If you don't, you can go through one by one and talk about why you think that they're not measurable. Then you get to the accommodations, and you can comment on the appropriateness of those. You do, you don't accept. And then you get to placement. You make your placement comments. And as far as responding to an IEP, in California, you have a few options. You can either provide a full consent or no consent, or you can provide partial consent. And partial consent would be saying, I don't think that this IEP offers my child a free, appropriate public education, but you have my permission to implement the IEP. That's obviously all too much information for what they give you on the IEP document, which is essentially one line. So that's why you can see the utility in writing, asterisk, 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 see attached letter. And you could even have a discussion about something else in the letter, like that the district's characterization of what was said is wrong. Or you could have a discussion about why you're requesting independent educational evaluations, or you could document any other concerns that you think are important for the IEP team to consider. So take as many sheets as you want and be as detailed as you want, and make sure that you include at the end of your letter that you request that this document be attached to the IEP. And that's how you do it.
Okay, that's fabulous.
Yep. Ready,
That's
Shannon?
like the master class.
Okay.
Okay, so the next question that we had, I want my son to not be in special ed. He's smart. How can I get him in a general classroom with a one-on-one aid?
Okay, so I misunderstood this question, which tells you I was going too fast this week. This question I thought was unclear. It's perfectly clear, and it fits nicely into what we're going to discuss today. She's not saying she doesn't want special education eligibility, which is what I thought. She's saying her son is in a special day class, and he or she is smart and is not getting anything out of those classes, and she wants him in general ed. How does she do it? So let's start with something that a very wise person told me a long time ago, a parent of children with autism who also is a special education attorney. At the time, probably 10 or 15 years ago, I had a student in a school district in Orange County who was in middle school and transitioning to high school. And the parents had gone and visited the class and were horrified to see that there was nothing going on there. There was no learning. It was a giant babysitting class. They were watching movies. There was not really any work being done. And I sort of called my friend in despair and I said, what do you do when the special education classes are so bad? And she said, Bonnie, what you have to do and what you have to advise your clients is that they keep their kids in general education for as long as they possibly can, because there really aren't very many good special day classes. Now, I know that when we say stuff like this on the air, it freaks people out. And sometimes I wonder if I'm coming on too strong and being direct with people and telling you that a lot of what I see in special ed is really dysfunctional. But, I'm not getting any younger, and this has been my experience, and I'm sort of at the point in my life where I think it's important to talk about what is. So I will tell you, there are probably exceptions, but most special education classes are segregated, expectations are low, and there's not a lot of learning going on there. And that's contrary to law because there's a very strong preference in the law for the child to be educated in the least restrictive environment with supplementary aids and services that allow that to happen. So that sort of flows into what we started talking about last week, which is what is all this talk about least restrictive environment and how does it apply to our child and what does it mean? And we didn't have very much time last week, so we just got through some definitions, and now we're going to dive in here and probably spend a couple weeks talking about least restrictive environment. So, are you ready, Shannon?
I'm ready.
All right. So, first of all, just took the camera again the wrong way. What happened? Okay. First of all, there's provisions in both federal and state law that concern your right to the least restrictive environment. And I would say almost bar none, least restrictive environment is the most important part of the IDEA. And it doesn't always mean general ed, although I've started the program today by saying those of us that can should be striving really hard to have our children be in general ed with supports for as long as we can. And if we're going to have them in special day classes, it's very important to get outside input about what's going on in that class because I don't think the district will tell you. And that may mean that you visit, but it also probably means that you have somebody else that has more familiarity with how to evaluate a classroom placement visit. In my practice, It's oftentimes it's the neuropsychologist or the speech therapist or something, but it also can be the BCBA supervisor from your home ABA program, and that can oftentimes be an easy way to get somebody in and have them see the classroom, because the parent is saying, well, I want to make sure there's consistency between my home and school program. How can my home ABA program work on these things if they don't know what's going on in the school environment? So consider doing that to get a handle on what your child's setting is actually providing. As far as the right to least restrictive environment, I'm going to give you a bunch of information, and some of it I have to read because I'm quoting from federal and state law. So, federal law provides that each local school district must ensure, to the maximum extent appropriate, so we've got a maximization standard, children with disabilities, including children in public or private institutions or other care facilities, are educated with children who are not disabled, and special classes, separate schooling, or other removal of children with disabilities from the regular educational environment occurs only when the nature or severity of the disability of a child is such that education in regular classes with the use of supplementary aids and services cannot be achieved satisfactorily. So obviously what we're going to be talking about is supplementary aids and services, and there's going to be, in the majority of cases, if the right supplementary aids and services are employed, the child's going to be able to be, the child's going to be able to be successful in the regular education environment. And sometimes when I do the research for these Autism Live calls, I think, wow, like this language is really powerful. And we should be going into our IEP meetings and reading this stuff to these people and making them justify, in response to the language, what it is that they're actually doing. Because they're supposed to be, using all of their smarts to figure out how to do as much inclusion as possible. And they are given a lot of options in terms of how to do this, and yet I don't see this actually happening practically speaking. So it's interesting because, for example, in order to ensure that the LRE mandate is followed, the IEP is supposed to include a statement describing how the disability affects involvement and progress in the general ed curriculum, okay? There's got to be a statement of annual goals to enable students to be involved, and there's got to be markers for evaluating progress in the general curriculum. So, loosely speaking, these days people are using a form IEP, and they probably, they're using a template IEP, and it probably has reference to those things. But then you got to ask yourself, do they gloss over it, or is there any meaningful discussion about it at your IEP? You should be having that discussion. So for the person that has the very smart child who's in a special ed class, what needs to be looked at is what, for example, what kind of supports does he need to be in a less restrictive setting, and what kind of curriculum modification does he need to be in a less restrictive setting? And the law, federal and state law, is very clear that even if you can't do the general ed curriculum unmodified, if you can otherwise participate in there with a modified curriculum, the law is giving you a preference, and you're entitled to try that. But I don't think that most people know that that's an option. So I can go on if you don't have any questions, Shannon. But
no, I'm loving it. Keep going.
Okay, so the IEP must spell out services and modifications, supports for school personnel to be provided to the student so that he or she can participate in general ed, even if he needs a modified curriculum, and he also should be allowed to participate in extracurricular and non-academic subjects. Students shall be offered special assistance programs that promote maximum interaction. Oh, I just went dark again. Sorry. Maximum interaction with non-disabled peers in a manner that's appropriate to the needs of both. So that's what we're supposed to be seeing, but I don't think you're seeing it a lot. That's right in our ed code. That's California Education Code 5656001 for NG. And if you want to read some of this stuff, all you have to do is Google it. If you put in California Education Code 56001, you'll be able to read this for yourself. And I think that knowledge is power. I think that when you start reading what's in the law and you start appreciating this preference for inclusion, essentially, you're going to be a lot more comfortable trying to push the district to do more of this stuff to make inclusion happen, because they're supposed to do a lot.
It's pretty powerful, Bonnie, I gotta say.
Well, that's what I felt like when I was reading this. It's kind of like we're all not really appreciating how powerful the language is in support of our goal to keep our kids in settings that are as normal as possible. Law says that special education classes should be utilized only when the circumstances are such that in a regular education class with aids and services, the child can't be educated satisfactorily. Well, we know that a lot of the time that's not the way it goes, right?
Most of the time it's the reverse, and the school acts like it's the reverse. And usually if you say to a school something like, well, can't we just try it? That's like heresy. They don't want to just try it because it costs them a lot of money.
That's why it's so important that you go in there armed, understanding that your child has a right to be fully included to the maximum extent practical. Okay? Exactly. And there are cases that look at exactly how that balancing is effectuated. And the most important one for California, it's not a particularly new case, it's from 1992. It's called Holland versus Sacramento Unified School District, and I'm going to quote from it. But Holland looked at the question of whether somebody could be excluded from general ed, and if so, what the analysis had to be before you exclude them. And Holland is still the law, and it's a strong decision for parents. So again, you might want to Google Rachel Holland versus Sacramento Unified School District. You ladies and gentlemen are smart people. That's why you are able to advocate for your children at the level that you do. Imagine how great it's going to be when you can actually understand what the analysis is as far as least restrictive environment, and you can pose these questions to the district.
Absolutely.
Because the questions we're not posing are sometimes the important ones. The question of research-based intervention, which is not inclusion, but it's to me, it's like the equally important question. The law says whoever recommends an intervention for a student needs to do so based on research to the maximum extent practicable. And if there's research out there that's readily available for teachers, and I believe there is research, then why isn't it practicable? And the person on the IEP team that's recommending a placement or a particular type of intervention ought to be able to say to the parent, you know, I'm a highly qualified teacher, and I'm here to talk to you about the research and explain the research and why I'm picking this way to go with your child. It's not like they get a free pass and they don't have to explain it to you. So that's something to bear in mind. And similarly, if somebody has your child in a special ed class and you don't believe he belongs there, you need to start having the IEP team have a meaningful discussion about the least restrictive environment analysis. And that doesn't just mean checking the box on the IEP document that said, we discussed the continuum of placements. It means a real discussion about what it's going to take to include your student to the maximum extent that it can be done.
Absolutely.
So
we got about 2 minutes, Bonnie. Do you want to?
I got lots more stuff. I mean, to me, when I started reading about LRE, I felt like somebody had like taken my head and turned it, you know, around so that it was like attached in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Because we're always sort of graciously accepting, you know, crumbs that were given. Oh, thank you. we should be demanding LRE. It's our right under the law. It's a strong right. So,
Amen.
So that's, the difference, I guess, between theory and practice. But if we want to move the law forward and enforce the law that we have, we need to start talking at IEP meetings about, what LRE looks like for the students. So in the time that I have, I want to tell you about a couple of California Education Code sections you might want to look at. One is 56346.2. That talks about your child's right to participate in general education to the maximum extent possible. So read that, see what it sounds like to you. Take a look at 56303. It says you can only refer somebody to a special education class after first considering all the general ed resources that are available would allow him or her to participate in general education. So next week we can start talking about the specifics in terms of how you do the analysis and what factors are considered and things like that. If we're out of time, I can stop. If we're not, I can read a little bit more from the federal.
Unfortunately, because I did not manage time, we are out of time. But we can pick it up here next week if that's all right.
Sounds good. Yep.
All right, so tell us again, how do we reach here, Gian Chow?
310-391-0330, lawyer4children.com. Good questions, good discussion. We'd love to hear from you. Keep your heads attached to your bodies. Everybody's having a hard time in the spring because school's about to end and things aren't fixed yet. We'll get through this.
Absolutely. And I love that we'll get through it with you, Bonnie. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your time and wisdom. We so appreciate it.
All right, everybody. See you next week in Killer Ed Land.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, we're going to take a break, and we are going to come back to close out the show with Harish Bikmal. And so stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We have joining us via Skype right now Harish Bikmal. Hopefully I haven't slaughtered your name, Harish. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Shannon. And you said the name Close to perfectly.
Close. Well, we'll take close. Now,
the reason is my dad tells me you and I don't say it rightly. That's why I said close to perfect.
okay, how do you say it?
Very well, Asmin, like you said it, right? Harish Bikmal.
Bikmal. Okay, and Harish, you are someone who has started an organization called Zenaviv. Tell us about and am I saying that right?
Absolutely.
Okay, tell us about Zenaviv.
Zenaviv is primarily a social enterprise startup, and with a vision to basically impact, autism, so that the parents are proud of their children and not necessarily tired from the struggles and the challenges they face, and they have a hope for a brighter future. What do? Is we try to promote the talent of these individuals. Currently, we promote their artistic talent to businesses, corporations, hospitals, etc., to help them earn an income, improve their self-esteem, and and the family see a ray of hope, Shannon.
And why was this something that you felt so passionately about?
Sure. And you may have guessed that I have a personal connection to autism. My younger son, Himal, was our inspiration for Zenaviv. He was diagnosed with severe autism, and he's nonverbal, with severe immune and gut problems. And his diagnosis was when he was about 2. He's 17 now, but developmentally he's like a 6-year-old. But fortunately, despite all his issues, due to the tremendous hard work of various teachers, therapists, and my wife, Himal has learned to paint. And one thing led to the other, and the starting of Zenaviv. I mean, I can share some of the story with you.
Yes, please.
After his diagnosis, one of the things the doctor, developmental pediatricians, and the psychologists told us is his condition is so severe, by the age of 6, he may need to be in an institution. Obviously, as a parent, which you know very well, Shannon, didn't give much hope. And my wife ended constantly worried, and especially what after we are gone, right? How would he live? Who would take care of him, etc. And we struggled to do many things for him. When he was like 6, 7, 8 years old, we tried basketball, baseball. He would learn good parts of it where gross motor skills were there, and fine motor was very weak. But importantly, he wouldn't get the rules. For example, if he played basketball, he wanted the ball all the time. But he would shoot very well, at least 9 out of 10.
That's pretty good.
Absolutely, he can. But he wants the ball all the time, I guess. That would be, that may not work. So when he was about 10 years old, one day my wife was painting in the basement, and my younger son and my older son, who's now 19, 2 years older than the younger one, was running around her easel, and in that melee, my wife dropped her brush. The younger one picked it up and started dabbing on the canvas rather than, just putting it on the table, which you would have normally done. So we were wondering, maybe he was interested or he could do anything, something he would like to paint. So we started him off on therapies, art therapy, different teachers for drawing, painting, etc. And teachers and therapists who worked with him, they did a tremendous job in, first of all, developing that interest with him. We started off with 1 minute, right, for him to stand at the easel, at the canvas with his brush for 1 minute. That's where we started. And but over a period of time, they helped to develop that skill in him. In fact, interest, I would say, initially, and then the initial basic skills, and then they nurtured it very well. And that gave us a glimmer of hope that maybe he can paint, And as he continued to paint, and we continued to be, overwhelmed with his medical and therapy bills, different kinds of therapies, And by the way, at the time, there was no insurance coverage for autism in the US, right? So we decided to hold a fundraiser and sell his art. And we announced it in our community and among our friends. And by the fundraiser date, we had over 100 people donate their art for the cause. We were just blown away by the support, right? I mean, it was just crazy. And it just deeply touched our hearts. And then on the day of the fundraiser, we sold over 1,500 greeting cards in first 2 hours. And in the next 4 hours, we sold over 130 paintings. This is where the idea of Zenaviv came from. And, I thought, I felt inspired, not only just my son, but maybe help other people on the spectrum, motivate the parents to try and identify the talents in their children and strengthen those talents, nurture those into something, that will be helpful for the kids' future, and provide some hope from the families, right, and reduce some stress levels in them. That is where, it started, and I'm beginning to see quite a few parents now take up painting and other things, whatever the kids' interests are.
And so right now, aside from your son, how many other individuals are you helping to realize these dreams?
So other than my son, we have 11 other artists as of yesterday.
Wow.
And I'm expecting a couple more to join this month, in the month of May. So we'll be about close to 15.
And does somebody have to live where you live to be an artist and work with you, or can they live quite far away?
Oh, they can live anywhere, Shannon. We have artists from Virginia to Portland, Oregon, right? And quite a few states in between, except for like the three I think we have here, other than my son in Virginia. Everybody's from different parts of the country. And there's one artist who has approached us from UK, wants to join, and then one from India.
And what does somebody need to do if they see this and go, oh, this is, like, I know a young man right now off the top of my head, a friend's son who's a brilliant artist that I want to refer to you. What do they need to do to apply?
Sure. First, from an application perspective, all they have to do is send us an email with a brief about the individual and maybe like 4 to 6 pieces of artwork of the individual. Even a phone picture taken with the phone is good enough for the application. And what we do with that is our curator will look at it and see, first of all, are we as a company a great fit for the individual? And the second thing is the art a good fit for our customers?
Right.
So once we have it, and then, we go to the next step, which is basically we have a basic, very simple agreement, and then we are off to the races.
Okay, fabulous. And I imagine that there are nuances to the agreement. Is there any, I know that they probably should talk to you, but is there anything that people should know up front?
Sure. The agreement is very simple. What the agreement states is the original artwork and the rights to the artwork belong to the artists and their families.
Wonderful.
Okay? And what they do is they provide us the permission to market the art using the images of the art. Okay? That is one. And let me explain that in a little bit in a moment. The second thing of the art, what we say is about the second thing in the agreement is the products that we sell on which the art is, we ask them if they don't sell the same product at different prices on different platforms, just not to create any confusion.
Sure.
And those are the two key aspects, and there is no hidden, although lawyers have drafted the agreement, have tried and keep it as simple as possible.
Sure.
Going back to the first one, if they're not able to give us high-def images or things, we just ask them if they could mail the art, and we do it for them.
Okay.
And then what we do is we partner with a company who reproduce art for the Smithsonian Museum in DC.
Wow.
So it's a very high museum quality reprints. So we get it digitized and printed, And that way the corporations can enjoy it for a while. I mean, they say the life of those prints is about 150 years.
Wow.
So that's what we do. And then we also put on products like, cups, mugs, totes, and also try to design some unique calendars, and there are a few other products coming up.
And then when the products do sell, does the artist get a portion of that and you get the other portion of it so that you're able to do the business?
Absolutely, Shannon, great question. And what we do is at least 66% of the profits go straight, that's the artist's earnings. And we keep about 30 to 35 in the company to help it run the operations. Currently, I'm bootstrapping it, and there have been a few people who have donated their time, so to speak.
Yes.
Volunteered their time, and I volunteer full-time at the company. I want to get it up and going into a stage where it's financially and operationally self-sustainable, right? So at the end of the day, at least 66% of the profits are the artist's earnings.
Well, I think that this is a spectacular business to be in, and what a wonderful thing. I love it when something like this starts because of a need for your own child, right? Because you could see things that, another business person who was like, hey, I've got an idea, I'll, do this, couldn't see the things that needed to be seen, but you saw it for your own son, and you've created something that makes it very accessible for individuals on the spectrum. So where can people go to find out more information?
They can go to our website, Zenaviv, zenaviv.com.
Okay.
And they can also email us at support@zenaviv.com or harish.bikmal@zenaviv.com.
Okay.
They can email me directly.
I hope you're going to get inundated with artists. You're going to have more artists than you know what to do with. And then where can we go to then purchase these prints and mugs and mouse pads, and where can we go to see those? I want to shop.
Thank you, Shannon. I look forward to that. But yeah, at the same website, my website is a kind of a marketplace, so to speak, where people can not only browse, but also order. We currently have over 1,000 pieces of art, but we have not put everything on the website, but there's enough choice, so people can look at it. And if they like something, or they would like to see more of something, like something that is on the website, they can email us and we'll respond to them within a few hours, typically within the 24 hours.
Okay.
With samples and things like that.
And I just want to say to you that, Harish, we put out a toy and gift guide every year in November for the holiday season, where we recommend toys and gifts for people to give, both to people on the spectrum and that support people on the spectrum. So I'm gonna be asking you for information about that, because what a wonderful thing to give a gift to somebody, a coffee mug. If you have to give a gift to somebody, why not give a gift that helps a person on the autism spectrum be employed? And now you have the beautiful artwork that you've given to someone that's thoughtful, and I imagine that it comes with a card saying that the art on here was done by so-and-so?
Absolutely. In fact, every product comes with that information, and products like greeting cards have that information on the back of it.
Love it. I absolutely love it. Well, I can't wait to shop, Harish, and I know that there are probably other people who out there, think about it, you guys. How often do you have to send? I know people don't do it very much anymore, but it's so appreciated. What a nice Hallmark thing to do, to have a set of cards that when you have to send a handwritten note to someone saying thank you, put your money where your mouth is, have the art on the card be done by somebody who's on the autism spectrum. Talk about a full inclusion moment. That's when you're living your best life. So
Absolutely.
What a wonderful thing to do. I got goosebumps, Harish. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful idea. And I hope that it just flourishes and is a way for artists to get their work out there. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Shannon. And there have been so many nice people who have helped us along the way to get it to where it is.
Well, I absolutely love it. So if you go and shop, but if you know that you have an artist in your midst, submit their work. This could be a stream of income. And as you said, it gives them that, self-esteem, which cannot be underrated. It is so important to all of us, and of course, to individuals who are on the autism spectrum. Harish, thank you so much. We're very excited about what you're doing, and we'll have to have you back on when it gets closer to the holiday season.
Absolutely, Shannon.
Okay.
And just to add to your earlier thought about circling the whole round, what we did in December last year during the holidays was we had our kids, that is kids with autism, write the greeting cards for others, right? They just sent us the message by email or through a spreadsheet, and the individuals wrote the cards for others.
Oh.
In addition to that.
I just love it. I absolutely love it. Well, thank you so much. I can't wait to take a look at all the things and do some shopping. We're unfortunately out of time, but we appreciate you being with us and waiting to be with us. Thank you and take care.
Thank you, Shannon. Much appreciate the opportunity to tell you about Zenaviv and your readers.
We appreciate you and all the work you're doing. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, you guys, so we've gone we've gone a little bit over. It's okay. We're just a few seconds over. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of our guests and thank you for being here. I felt inspired today, so hopefully you did too. We'll be back tomorrow. Will be a best of. That's usually on Tuesday what we run. But on Wednesday, I'm told that we have Dr. Grampuchet, and it's going to be a great show. You're not going to want to miss it. Be there with us, and we've got great shows the rest of the week. Make sure that you do the subscription thing on our website so that you get the postcard and you'll know who's on every week. So, all right, thank you. Until I see you on Wednesday, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.